News First Plus. I'm Joy Limnackern here with Gurveer Dinza, and it's time for our segment called In Case You Missed It. So yeah, in case you missed it, I guess there's a social media warning, right, Gurveer?
You know what? This has been such an interesting topic, and a topic that I think resonates with so many people, specifically parents. You know, there's been a lot of talk, especially over the last year or so, about mental health, especially mental health among our young children, teenagers. I can tell you, having two teenage daughters, that social media is a huge part of their lives. And now, you know those health warnings that you see on cigarettes? Well, the Surgeon General says he wants to add those to social media apps. He says that they can be as dangerous to children as tobacco. Now, adding these warnings, mandating them, is going to take an act of Congress, but the Surgeon General is saying that parents actually need to act right now. The U.S. Surgeon General, his name is Vivek Murthy, and he's calling on Congress to put these warning labels on social media apps right away. So let's hear what he had to say about this. There are a lot of experts that link social media to depression, bullying, harassment, even suicide in young people, which is why the Surgeon General says that he is worried about children, particularly teens, and he says they face health risks from social media as profound as those from cigarettes and alcohol. Take a listen.
This warning label is part of a broader strategy to help address the harms that we are seeing associated with social media for our kids. It is our moral responsibility as a society to take care of our kids. And when it comes to social media, we are not doing well.
The Surgeon General also suggests parents keep children off of social media until they get to high school. And he says even at that point, they really need to maybe reassess based on the maturity of that teenager. He says, you know, if your teen's not ready for social media, don't let them on there. Don't give them those phones. You know, that's a tough one for parents because you want your children to not feel maybe ostracized from some of their peers, and also for safety reasons. But this is something that he says that parents really need to think about. He says it's best maybe that you create technology-free zones and maybe times of day when your children can be on social media. And he says another really good option might be for parents to work together with other parents on shared rules. That way, you know, your child can't say, well, you know, Joey gets to do that. Maybe Joey's parents are on the same page as you, and therefore they're all on the same page. So, Joy, I think this is something that we're going to be hearing a lot about in the next few days, few weeks, and months ahead. But I think our children's mental health is certainly really, really important, and this is a good topic for us to talk about.
So right. Absolutely.
One more thing.
Okay.
You know, we're talking about social media. Mm-hmm. It's right there on our phones, whether you have an Android or you have, you know, an iPhone. What about the old landline? Do you still have a landline?
I don't, Gurveer.
Do your parents?
No, they don't. Do you have a landline?
I just got rid of my landline 2 years ago. Can you believe that? Now,
you know, yeah.
my parents have one, and the girls' grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa up in St. Louis, have one, and those are the only telephone numbers that I have memorized from childhood, are my parents' numbers. Now there's a new report just released that says that this is from the CDC. And apparently more and more people are phasing out landlines in favor of cell phones. This was a survey that was done in 2023, and it shows fewer than 1 in 4 Americans still has a landline. 22% of adults said they had both a cell phone and a landline at home. So there you go.
Wow. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone in that.
It took me a minute because we're so attached to, you know, we're so used to having that landline. You know, first it was attached to the wall, and then we had what my girlfriend Ann, who is now 85, calls a walk-around phone.
A walk-around phone.
You know, walk-around phone. Which was
the cordless.
The cordless
Is that
phone.
what she's talking about?
Right. And now we've got our mobile phone, so nobody really needs a landline anymore.
No, it's true. So I think we're okay. We're okay with the cell phones, but we just need to, you know, just be careful on not go overboard with the social media, especially the young ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Gurveer, for a look at that. And you know, while we're talking, just getting everyone caught up. Sorry, I'm pulling up this video. That's why I'm looking down here.
No worries.
So you know, we have the primary election runoff day today, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier. But I want to let everyone know about some new efforts to help visually impaired voters. And You know, in one metro Atlanta city, a handful of Georgia voters are still saying that they're having a hard time reading their ballots. Political reporter Doug Reardon explains this deeper issue.
Brent Reynolds has been blind his entire life. It hasn't stopped him, though, from voting in nearly every election since he moved to DeKalb County in the early 90s.
I've voted in every election cycle.
But that doesn't mean it's been easy. Brent uses the county's assisted voting machines required by law to be provided at precincts. But when he came here to Dunwoody Public Library to vote in last month's primary election,
They couldn't get it working. There was no action from the keypad. The buttons didn't do anything.
plus the volume was so low he could barely hear. Poll workers sent him to another precinct with an assisted machine about 40 minutes away. Brent can't drive, so it was a frustrating day to say the least.
I've had it everywhere I've ever voted, and every blind person I know in the whole metro area, they either get frustrated.
So Brent
Reynolds.
took his concerns right to the county.
DeKalb County is in violation of various federal and state laws.
And they listened. Brent is now helping the county test all of their 100-plus assisted voting machines. It's a shame, though, he says, that he had to fight for his freedom to vote.
It is about independence, and that's what we were promised when they first came out with the electronic machines.
And if counties want to know what works for their blind and visually impaired voters, Brent says it's simple. Just ask.
More of an input, yeah. They think they know what would be easy for a blind person to use, but they don't really know how a blind person does anything.
Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
Acknowledge the history here, as you know, Juneteenth is upon us tomorrow. Black Georgians forced to answer impossible questions just to vote was a reality in the 1940s, which really wasn't that long ago. Again, Juneteenth is tomorrow. Atlanta News First reporter Patrick Quinn digs into the history of barriers for black voters and what access looks like now.
The Negroes claimed that voter registration tests were used to keep them from the polls.
In the 1940s and 50s, for black men in Georgia, even before the barrage of hate you might face physically at the polls, you were tested.
What is the definition of a felony in Georgia? Oh, dear God.
We went into the Georgia archives. That is one question on the 1958 citizenship test. If voters could not read and write a section of the Georgia Constitution, they'd have to answer 20 of these 30 questions correct to be able to register to vote.
In the 40s, how hard would this have been?
It would have been impossible. It was truly designed with discriminatory intent.
We sat down with Alicia Hughes, Emory's interim executive director for the Center of Civil Rights and Social Justice. Hughes said her grandfather and great-grandfather had to take literacy tests just like these.
You couldn't read and write, and the registrar were to ask a person these questions. What is the likelihood that they would know the answer in the 40s and 50s? Hell, let's consider what's the likelihood that most Americans would have the answers to these questions today.
We wanted to know the same. Could you pass a literacy test today? We took these questions to the Atlanta streets.
May the President of the United States be legally elected for a second term?
Yes.
You're on a roll.
I'm a teacher. I do teach about it.
Though this second grade teacher would soon be stumped on the term length for U.S. senators.
2 years.
It's 6, but she wouldn't be the only one to come up short.
How many representatives are there in the Georgia House of Representatives? And how does the Constitution of Georgia provide that they be apportioned among the several counties?
I do not know. What's the name of the state judicial circuit you're in? And what are the names of the counties or counties in that circuit?
That's ridiculous. No one knows that.
That was the voting landscape then. But what about now?
There are so many different ways now that some iteration of a literacy test is coming back into play, even now.
Civil rights organizations, including the ACLU of Georgia and the Southern Poverty Law Center, argue in Senate Bill 202, passed and signed by Governor Kemp in 2021, changes to absentee voting and accessing drop boxes make it harder for specifically black voters to cast a ballot. And just last month, the governor signed Senate Bill 189, calling for more election changes. The governor's office defended the bill, saying, quote, "As the governor has done in the past, he will always support measures that keep our elections secure, accessible, and fair. Whether in the 1940s or now, No matter the odds, perceived or real obstructions, Georgians cannot be denied their right to vote.
You have to go through this in order for us to get what we need as far as our government is concerned, our lives, our everyday lives. We have to go through this process.
In Atlanta, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
And thank you so much to Patrick for that retrospective there. And, you know, this weekend, we want to remind you, you can watch Atlanta's annual Juneteenth parade on Peachtree TV. It's happening Saturday at noon. And I pulled up on our website all the information that you need. And it includes even the parade route in case, you know, if you just want to even, you know, say hello along the parade route and join in somehow. There's the whole map. And again, this is Saturday at noon, and if you want to find it on our website, you go to our communities tab on atlantanewsfirst.com, and then you're going to see, you know, you're going to see a section for Juneteenth, and then you can find everything that you need to know. But if you want to avoid all that because it is going to be hot out there, don't forget you can also watch us live as well on Peachtree TV. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.